Every now and then, an email arrives from a listener that stops me cold. Ben Canine first reached out after hearing Strange Planet. He said something most of us would dismiss as impossible until you hear the details. He and his wife believe they've become the targets of a coordinated campaign, a high-tech psychological operation that began when their computers and phones were hacked, their privacy stripped away, and their reality slowly twisted. What started as cyber intrusion, Ben says, evolved into something far darker. Voices projected directly into his mind, patterns of surveillance that followed him everywhere, and a shadowy network that feels eerily similar to the Finders, the infamous trafficking ring once linked to intelligence circles. For 2 years, he's documented every step, the digital sabotage, the voice-to-skull transmissions, the psychological warfare, and what he's discovered, he believes, points to a hidden architecture of control, a fusion of old mind control experiments and new surveillance technology. And tonight, Ben joins me not as a whistleblower or an activist, but as a listener, one of us, who found himself pulled into a nightmare that sounds like science fiction until you realize how much of it is real. He's a victim of a covert psychological operation, or has he stumbled onto a system of technological tyranny that none of us are meant to see? Either way, this story forces us to confront a chilling possibility that the age of free thought may already be under attack from inside our own minds. Ben, welcome to Strange Planet. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
Very well. I've done countless shows on targeted individuals. I was involved in a television project. We did a pilot called The United States of Paranoia on this very topic, documenting cases of targeted individuals. So this is an area I'm very familiar with. There was a period when I was doing a terrestrial radio program here in Toronto where I would receive perhaps a dozen emails a week, even letters, snail mail, from individuals who believed that they were being targeted. So let's talk about what happened to you. Walk us through the day it began, the device hacks, your PC destroyed, your wife's behavior changing. What was the trigger?
Yeah. So like I call it overtly targeted and covertly targeted. I started to notice the overt targeting when my PC was inundated with a bunch of malware. I found the spyware on there that was basically monitoring everything I was doing and mailing it out somewhere. Now, I don't have a lot of money. I was kind of a conspiracy theorist. I was always a big fan of researching the government for like 15 years. I posted on a small Discord about, conspiracies and stuff like that, but nobody big, nobody to go after. And then, my computer once I found that spyware, it was attacked again with things that are called living off the land attacks, where basically they can use task scheduler and different things on your computer to just shut it down. And they just did not want me to have a computer at that point. Then at that point, I took it offline. And I started telling my wife, like, this is a pretty sophisticated attack. I don't know why somebody's monitoring me like this. They could have gone into our bank account and taken like, $1,000 or whatever was in there. They didn't do it. They had access to all my emails, my Outlook and my Gmail. And that was kind of the beginning. From there, I mean, we'll get straight to I'd just like to start with a disclaimer. Here in Massachusetts, a lot of targeted individuals are disappearing. And what's going on is here they have a very stringent sectioning for mental health standards. So if you come forward to the authorities and say that you are hearing voices, that you believe that you are being stalked, and you have no definitive proof, they're throwing these people into mental institutions. So here in Massachusetts, there used to be a local group of targeted individuals that would get together, a support group. It was disbanded. It's gone. I've tried reaching out for the last 7 months or so to targeted individuals through targeted individuals conference calls and different types of Targeted Justice and groups like that. And I can't find any in Massachusetts. I talked to some TIs in California, Florida, Canada, um, New York, but I can't find any in Massachusetts. It's kind of creepy. And I'm realizing now, because of what I've been through early on with this, is that if you go forward and say that any of this is happening to you, the first thing they will do is call the police, and they can section you and send you to a mental ward, which I experienced myself.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Even if you show
So
them, I mean, are you able to show them you discovered malware and spyware on your computer? Can't you show them? I mean, you have documented evidence, presumably.
so I called the police when the because not first my PC was destroyed. I discovered all of that, and then my phones were all getting they all started overheating, and the battery would die like within like half of a day, where normally the battery would last for like 2 days or something like that. I found APKs on my Android, extra basically apps that were added on there that were very odd. There was one that was like Legacy Cell Tower APK that utilizes the old, legacy, the old system from cell towers that they had already like moved on from, but the infrastructure's still there, like weird stuff like that. So I called the police, and I was freaked out. Because at that point I was hearing V2K. At that point, I had a literal transmission.
Sorry, V2K, voice to skull technology. And for people
Yeah,
who think this is just paranoia, you could actually go online and you can see the patent. This was developed over 50 years ago.
yeah,
It's real. It's real. So you were hearing
yeah.
voices projected right into your skull. No one else could hear them, but you could hear them.
Exactly. And I always thought, like, I believed in every conspiracy theory, and I always thought that this was something from schizophrenic, mentally ill people. I never believed that conspiracy. I thought that these were like tweakers and people that had mental problems, and I never paid attention to it because of how well they utilize it. They always make sure to discredit people. They make sure to target the poor and drug addicts, mentally ill, criminals,
Yeah.
which is pretty typical for mind control programs.
In other words, both things
Um,
can be true. You can have a mental health issue, but you can also be targeted because by virtue of your mental health issue or your drug addiction, you are automatically discredited.
Sure. Yeah. And yeah, I just wanted to lead before I get into anything else that at this point, the V2K has stopped. All that's there is a tinnitus. It's an extreme tinnitus that happens that varies in frequency and loudness, and it's usually accompanied by like extreme bouts of nausea, and sometimes it feels basically like your whole head is heating up.
Like
Very si-
like a microwave weapon of some sort.
Yeah, yeah, it feels like that. It just feels like your whole head is just getting hot. You don't have a fever or anything. But yeah, and it goes along basically with what was reported with the Havana syndrome cases, from the State Department.
So
But now they have, yeah.
before the voice to skull stopped, tell me about the voice. Was it a single voice? Was it male, female, and what were they saying?
It's extremely negative. So basically, it's a prolonged, because I've talked to plenty of other TIs now, and it happens to all of them pretty much exactly the same. It's a prolonged, nonstop negative attack. They will basically use confusing tactics, where they tell you, all sorts of bad things are happening. They want you to basically freak out, because the first thing that they do when they're targeting you like this is they want to discredit you. They want to get you arrested. They want to get you mental health diagnosis. Now, at this point, I was 38 years old. I had no criminal record. I never had a mental health problem. So they went hard on me. And it was basically, it sounded like two people. They would use like really advanced voice changers. And they would say all sorts of stuff. Police are at the door. Police are coming for you. And I'd be like, at that point, I was like still talking out loud back to it because I didn't know what was going on. And I was just asking them, like, what agency is this? Like, who are you? Like, this is crazy. How is this happening? You know, for those that don't know, it's something called the Frey effect, where basically they use microwaves to cause like an expansion in your hearing apparatus in your brain. and it can just basically completely simulate any sound, and can be transmitted to you. They lock on. If you read Dr. Robert Duncan's book, Project Soulcatcher, he worked with the CIA and DARPA developing this kind of technology, and it can lock on like via a specific brain frequency. So that's how they do it. But yeah, so they were just basically haranguing me, insulting me, saying terrible things, and this went on for like months and months and months. And these.
Sorry.
Yep.
Any organized gang stalking? Like you would go someplace, I don't know, the gym, and all of a sudden you would hear people, murmuring about you, talking about you, pointing to you.
So here is what I figured out about the gang stalking thing. This is what they're doing, because this is all connected to overall a gigantic mind control program, done by the CIA, Department of Defense, Homeland Security. That then uses contractors and contracts it out to people, probably an organized crime like they've always worked with. But basically, they want you to think that people around you are responsible for what's happening. Because when it first started happening, they tried to convince me that it was my neighbors. I would get like this idea in my head that my neighbors were in on it, and it's them hacking my phone. And it didn't make any sense. And I never acted on any of it because I'm just like, what the heck? Like at one point, I walked up to one of them and asked them like, hey, do you know anything about like Bluetooth hacking? Like my cell phone is showing that like I have like a hack via Bluetooth. Do you know anything about that? And they acted like wicked weird and were like, no, never. I would never do anything like that. So what I figured out over time, over 2 years of being targeted, is they can basically lock on anybody around you and basically inject thoughts and feelings and suggest speech to them. Even, depending on how, I would say compromised or programmed the person is beforehand or how sharp they are, they can suggest facial features, like facial expressions, and make those other people act strangely. And so this is the pattern that I saw with all of their TIs, and you see them all over the place on when you go on Quora or something like that. When I was trying to research it, these people sound insane because they're like, my mailman's after me, the local town selectman is gang stalking me, and this is just the tactic that they use initially to make sure that the person sounds insane and is totally confused about what's happening. When in reality, the only thing that can pull something like this off is infrastructure in place by the NSA, the CIA, and Department of Defense. This is a pretty elaborate system they have using satellites and telecommunications, cell towers, and stuff like that.
So just to be clear, so what are we saying about your neighbors or the organized gang stalking? That they're not they're not part of the.
No, yeah, this is a standard operating procedure for how these groups discredit people and try to make people do something crazy, and they want to isolate people as well. So they'll make them think that their family is in on it. They'll make them think that their friend betrayed them, or all the local police are in on it.
When in fact they're not.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. When this can all be done remotely by one or two agents in front of a computer that uses what's called a brain-computer interface or neural interface that can, basically remotely scan your mind and inject thoughts and feelings. And on top of that, this V2K, obviously, because they're able to send audio transmission, they can send subliminal audio transmission. They can do hypnotic priming. So when you're sleeping, they can have they could just sit there and do psychic driving where they say the same thing over and over again and kind of hypnotize you while you sleep. I would wake up to them talking to me. When I would wake up out of sleep, they can direct dreams. This is another big thing. You have these weird, almost AI type dreams that don't look normal. So it's a vast, they have a vast system. It's a whole toolbox of stuff that they can do. And they try to come across as sounding really stupid. The people doing the V2K, they try to come across as being like punk kids that are trying to make fun of you and or thugs or gangsters. But these are people, and they would just switch through these different characters over the months went by. But it was basically the same two people. And And the two big things that really made me realize it was a mind control thing. So one, I started thinking, and they started responding back to my thoughts. So that was a mind blow. So I was like, I was like, oh my God, this is like synthetic telepathy. Like I don't have to talk out loud. And then two, I was lighting a cigarette one day I'm getting bombarded by V2K on the couch, and I accidentally rested the hot lighter on my stomach, and it burned my stomach. And the V2K screamed. The V2K, the person who was talking to me goes, oh, like that, like before I could even react to it. And like right away, I'm like, there's a sharing of sensory experiences. And when I looked up, I started researching the DARPA ElectRx program, obviously the Elon Musk Neuralink. That is one of the main things that they promise is that there'll be a sensory sharing, application for it, where you can share other people's sense of touch, their sense of smell, what they can see, what they can hear. And then shortly after that, I learned about remote neural monitoring. And Dr. Rupert Duncan's book talks about a Project Soul Catcher. And then that made perfect sense because they had me running around the house because they were saying like what I was doing, And I'm like, how do you know what I'm doing? And I thought there were cameras in my house. I was going nuts. Obviously, it was a very stressful, insane thing happening. And I found out remote neural monitoring. They can basically scan your brain and they can put what you're seeing onto a monitor, so they could basically, have in 1080p or vision what you're looking at. They can hear what you're hearing.
And what about your wife? I understand you married a woman from Thailand.
Yeah.
Was she being targeted as well?
Yes. So all during this period, she underwent this very strange change where immediately we had like been together for 5 years at that point, and we had never got in an argument. Basically, she might have told me to pick up some socks off the ground or something. I was like, okay, fine. But she started having these weird looping arguments with me about stuff. Right after my computer got hacked, I would mention like, yeah, this feels weird. I feel like I'm being followed or something. There was a couple times early on where I saw the same. It was a couple different cars that seemed to be following me at different points, but that stopped, pretty soon. And I mentioned it to her, and she started going to these large looping arguments and getting extremely angry. And over time, I realized that what was going on was there was some type of brain entrainment or hypnotizing going on, where I watched her behavior just change, slowly but surely over time. And it got, this went on for months. In the beginning, she was, very understanding about what was happening, and she knew that people were after us. At one point, actually, we went to go stay in a motel room because there were so many different things that happened. I don't want to get bogged down in all these different stories, but we went to go stay in a motel room because we were worried about our safety. I didn't know what was happening at that point. I didn't know if somebody was going to, come and kill us or something, and which is what they wanted. Wanted me to freak out, and so we went to stay at a motel room, and we're there, and somebody just runs up to the door and just pounds on the door like the police, and like we both jump. I run over there. I look out the peephole, and there was just a guy running off, probably like mid-20s, and he just jumps into a white SUV, and the SUV just peeled off. And then she got an email. We were staying at a Red Roof Inn, and she got an email saying like, welcome, Christopher, like to her email, like, welcome, Christopher, we have your room ready at Red Roof Inn for that night we were staying there. So somebody used her email and signed up, basically letting us know, like, yeah, like we're staying there too, and just it was just an intimidation tactic, I guess. And that was coupled with whoever that was pounding on the door.
So what happened? Are you and your wife still together, or did this tear you apart?
We are.
Okay.
No, it did for a little bit because what happened is this is the really unbelievable part, which is it's all unbelievable, but this is like a mind control thing. This is I don't know if you ever heard of Project Monarch.
Oh yes, done multiple shows on that. Yeah.
Right. So she started completely going into like irrational, angry, crazy states. And this is a woman that is complete straight edge. She never did any drugs. She would like maybe have one drink if we went out somewhere, and she started going like crazy. And would get extremely angry towards me if I started talking about what was happening. She would basically tell me, that none of it was happening anymore. Even though before we were ready to flee to Thailand, especially after the motel incident, she completely reversed it, and now she's like, no, nothing's happening, everything's fine. And that V2K was still going at that point and saying like, yeah, we're taking control of your wife. Like we can make her do whatever we want.
Did she ever get
And
violent? Did she get violent, or did you
yeah,
fear she was going to get violent?
yeah, yeah. And we never had any altercations. We barely even argued. And now we're at the point where she would go nuts. She'd be punching me, kneeing me, kicking me, screaming in my face. Like her whole facial expressions were different. It was this complete like angry, just full of rage. It was horrifying, and that's it was just surreal for me. And the whole time V2K is going off on me, saying like, you have no idea what you're in for. We got you. You effed up. You effed up. You shouldn't have stayed here. Implying that the apartments that we were, because that was another thing. Like, we had to move a couple times, and we only had like these just one option for an apartment to move to, and they were very odd. I mean, one of them, the head of maintenance was like, I found out he was a retired Air Force officer, which is not normal. Normally, it's like, they pay like $22 an hour for something like that, and this guy's walking around. The place is immaculate. Both of the women working in there, one was from a military family, the other one is from Boston Police family. And it was very odd. And that's where like my wife just like changed into like a whole different person. And at one point, even saw her drop into a hypnotic state. Like, as we were talking to each other, I mean, she would just go into these looping weird things. I could not talk to her at all. And literally, like, she just like shut down like a robot, just like that. But just her head went into her chest, and I grabbed her by the hands and was like, baby, what's up? And she like slowly lifted her head back up, and her eyes were kind of half lidded. And she just got up and silently just walked into the other room and sat down and just said, I don't want to talk to you anymore.
How did that end?
And
How did that end?
that ended, that particular, but how did her behavior end? Because
Yeah.
it's still,
Oh, it's
it's
still.
it's still going on. I mean, that's
okay.
where we're at now.
Ah,
That's where we're at now, where
okay.
like, and now if I mention anything about what has happened to her, she will basically just, not talk to me or go nuts.
Yeah. Were you
She
ever?
acts like a completely different person now. She just like doesn't even, she used to sit down, watch like, America's Got Talent or something like that. Now she'll just like sit there and like stare at the wall basically, and kind of just like look off into the distance, or just like watch like really odd clips on her phone and just stare at her phone for like 3 hours straight, like a zombie.
Wow.
And
Did
that's
they,
like where she's at now.
did these voices ever try to encourage you to hurt yourself?
Yeah, early on, which is funny because I was never. I'm kind of I wouldn't call myself like a narcissist, but I love myself. I'd never hurt myself. I think that's it's a huge waste. Doing anything like that, and they would definitely like they would try to like give me these ideas of people around me where, oh, it's this guy, oh, it's that guy. Some guy would go walking by and they'd be like, oh, look out, and I would just be laughing like, this is ridiculous. Like, you guys are. This is like a transmission that could be coming from the other side of the country. So, they would try stuff like that early on, and it drove me nuts. I mean, at a certain point, day in, day out, from the moment I would wake up to when I would go to sleep, and sometimes I would try to stay up for. At one point, I tried staying up for 3 days to see if I could get them tired, because I'm like, are these people robots? Like, what is going on? Like, do they take shifts? And they did. They got tired. I could hear them. They started telling me to go to bed. They started saying things like, I've had enough of this. Go get some sleep. but they would also use the sleep deprivation to confuse me and, keep continuing with trying to instill like paranoid delusions, which I resisted because I'm a very level-headed person. I would just sit there and basically research these kind of technologies, and I read the CIA's Kubark manual, which was very helpful.
What is that?
That's our manual for psychological torture and interrogation. It was written back in the late 60s, early 70s, but it's all the same stuff. They use tactics like sexual humiliation, hypnosis, sleep deprivation.
MK Ultra, MK Ultra kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And it
So-
kind of helped me to understand where they're coming at with, because they were just following that manual like perfectly. Like they did a lot of like sexual insults and stuff like that. Yeah.
Tell me about, you mentioned the apartment, but one of the first places I think where this started to happen was you were living above, was it a Chinese restaurant? It was the flagship restaurant. Is it Shake and Crab?
It was, yeah, the Shaking Crab.
Shaking Crab.
Shaking Crab.
I'm up here in
Yeah.
Canada, so I'm not familiar with the franchise. This is a fairly famous American franchise.
Yeah, they got quite a few locations around here.
Okay, but this was like the first one, apparently.
Yeah, this was a flagship one, and it was set up in a very odd place, kind of in like the neighborhood of Newton.
Newton,
and,
Massachusetts, or Newton in? Okay,
Newton, Mass. Yeah, Newton,
okay.
Mass.
All right, and so it seems like you were enticed to move there because they were offering a ridiculously low rent.
Yeah, they offered a very low rent. My wife heard about it through her Thai community. It was two Thai women that she knew because they were Thai, just through because it's a small population here, which is another big part of this thing, because it seems as though they're kind of preying on a big angle of this, I think, is human trafficking, from what I can tell. After what I saw happen to my wife, and if you know anything about Project Monarch, if you can find highly suggestible people, women are more highly suggestible than men, so they're more easily mind controlled and hypnotized. And then on top of that, people from the third world are more highly suggestible. So I think that they are preying upon third world women, for various reasons. For human trafficking reasons.
So
basically, that's a big part of this.
And tell me about why you suspect that the people involved in the restaurant where you lived above the restaurant, why they might have been involved.
Well, the apartment was set up very odd. There was no door separating our. We basically got a floor of the building, and so that we had no door. And it was two Thai women who were, seemed very mild-mannered. So I trust Thai people. They're usually really good, really honest people, Buddhist. And so it didn't bother me that much. But once things started happening there, I just started hearing weird noises at night. I would hear strange, like deliveries come in the middle of the night, like 3 in the morning, like 4 in the morning. Down to this restaurant, which was the restaurant like did not do well. There was like never anybody there. Like it was like right away, like I had some past experiences, when I was younger, and I was like, this is a front. Like this seems like this is like a front for something. Like they're bringing in crates and barrels and stuff and dragging them down to a basement, in the early morning hours. And early on, we had a heating problem, so I went down to the basement without asking. And they got really mad, and I didn't poke around, but there's this big, massive basement, and I went down there. I saw like, oh yeah, the furnace, it needs to be flushed out or something. And I went up and I told them, and after I told them, they made sure to keep it deadbolted all the time. They wouldn't let me anywhere near the basement ever again. Even when, when I offered to flush the radiators for free, through the furnace down there and show them how to do it, like the property manager who knew nothing about property management. It was just this Thai woman who worked for this Chinese millionaire that owned the building. He's basically one of the founders of Shaking Crab. He's a Chinese millionaire that works with a a giant Chinese conglomerate, and they work with the CCP. All Chinese conglomerates have to have a part owner is CCP, and yeah, she went down there with me, and I was like, yeah, so I'm just gonna flush and hook up this hose here, and she's just like, okay, and she was like shaking, like making sure to stand in between me and the rest of the basement, and it just seemed like it was there was some stuff going on there.
Well, these
But I mean,
deliveries in the middle of the night, crates and barrels. What do you think this is a front for? Trafficking? Were they bringing children into the basement?
I don't. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, if you talk about China, I don't think they're dragging people in crates or anything. But I mean, they could be dragging in precursors to make fentanyl. That's
Right.
that's a big thing that comes from China. And this is they seem to have connections. I mean, later on, I found out that Chinese millionaire, because right across the street there was the Sons of Italy kind of club, which is kind of like a big connection to Italian organized crime. And then I found out that he was kind of friends with, some people that were involved in that, the Scarpato family and different. There was a lot of it's like a can of worms in Newton. There's a lot going on there, and I'll put it
Like
that way.
like
And
Montauk.
yeah,
So
yeah. There's
and they were
but
also the restaurant that owned the building, and you were living above it, $1,600 a month, I think it was. They were also
yeah,
offering you free Wi-Fi, which I guess, in
yeah.
retrospect, was a huge red flag. I mean, who does that?
It was odd. Yeah, they made sure to put a Wi-Fi extender up there, and they were like, "Yeah, use our Wi-Fi," and it was really weird. And yeah, and that was the first thing that happened was my PC got that was where my PC got hacked into and then destroyed. So
So obviously, you were
and
enticed to move to that specific location. They set up this apartment so that you could be spied on, hacked, and so forth. But what does that have to do with whatever they were doing in the basement? I mean, help me make sense of all of
I
this, or
think
have
it's
you?
I mean, for me, I think it's coincidental, and I don't try to focus on that now. That was just something that happened early on where I
Hmm.
was trying to make heads or tails of what is happening here. But I think that they probably have, their fingers in a couple different pies, and I'm not even going to try to guess, what they were up to. I just know that it was very suspicious the way that they acted, and
Right.
um,
But
and yeah, when I was working at that time at a place down the street. It's like this place, Automatic Laundry. I was a laundry technician, and this family owns it. And this place was around since the '60s, and it's a coin-operated business. It was around the '60s in Boston, so anything like that was connected to organized crime. Just like Whitey Bulger. That was how they laundered money. And so this Scarpato family that owned it, when I went to them and I went to my boss and I asked for the IT department to look at my phone to see what was going on with it because they had the same model of iPhone. Because they would give us a business phone that was the iPhone 12, and I got an iPhone 12 after my first phone got hacked, and then that got hacked. And so I'm like, can you guys take a look at this and like tell me how to, like, I don't know, fortify it? I thought that these things were supposed to be like unhackable. And my head of operations was like, yeah, actually, we're gonna call in the vice president, like the basically the owner's son. And I was like, why? And he comes in and he's like, so what's going on? And I told him, like, yeah, my stuff's getting hacked. And he's like, oh, you live above the Shaken Crab, right? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh yeah, I know that guy. And I'm like, all right. And he's like, it's the Wi-Fi. He goes, it's the Wi-Fi. And I go, well, it's the Wi-Fi, so that guy's hacking into my stuff. And he just and he goes, yeah, it's a Wi-Fi. And I go, well, what am I supposed to do about this? Like, they keep hacking into every device I have, and they destroyed my computer. I mean, my like $1,200 computer is trash now. I can't even use it. And he just gets all upset, and he just stands up and he goes, why don't you call the police? Why don't you call the police about it? And he just walks out. And so, at that point, I was, I just wanted to move. I just moved out of there. I mean, that
right.
was our next step. I just moved out of there.
But it didn't stop.
Um,
It didn't stop.
no, no, and it was the same thing. We had nowhere to move. Somebody from the Thai community, my wife's friend, goes, "I got a place for you to move to right now, good price," and we had to move in there, and the same crap started happening again. It was like, weird noises in the night, like odd stuff. Now I know that it was V2K. This is like one of the ways that they can use a V2K is to just, freak people out, basically making things go thump in the night. I heard like random, bangs from underneath in the basement, like feet scratching along, and I'm looking around like, what's going on? And it was a campaign basically to just like drive me nuts and get me to discredit myself, call the police and say this person's doing something. The upstairs neighbor was just stomping around in boots, like constantly. Like they were just like from one side of their apartment to the other, like boom, 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 boom. And I'm just looking around like, what is happening? And like I called the police, like non-emergency line. I was like, can we get like someone to mediate like with my neighbor? And this cop shows up. And this woman comes downstairs, this old lady, and she goes, what's happening? And I'm like, all I'm hearing all night long is stomping. And she's like, Boots, I don't even own Boots. I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, all right, well, sorry. Did you have somebody over? She goes, no, never. And either as V2K. I think it was just V2K. I think that they basically can, from what I experienced later, they can project sound from they can make it sound directional. It's not just like an audible voice that you could hear in your head or weird noises. They can make it sound like it's coming from over there, over here, to really freak you out. And yeah. I mean, at a certain point, they got me. I had called the property manager and was like, I hear people down in the basement walking around at night, and the back door, the lock to the back door to the outside is just completely broken, so people can get in there. I was like, can you do something about this? And he calls me up right away after hearing the message, and he's like, yeah, I'll set up a camera down there. And I go, wow, all right, that's fast, thanks. And this is a really nice place. This is Charles Bank Gardens, right along the Charles, and so, yeah, he sets that up. And the next day, I come back. Oh, and another thing, I tried setting up Wi-Fi cameras, and my Wi-Fi, somebody broke the panel where the internet line comes from the telephone line to the house. Mm-hmm. Somebody broke into that. They broke the lock, and my internet just kept going down as soon as I set up Wi-Fi cameras to make sure everything was safe in there. So there was obviously like a coordinated effort, and so I come home. One day, and I hear running, and I go inside. I hear like basically just like scattering, like somebody's like just like booking it like out of my apartment, like towards like the basement door. And at this point, I think it's all V2K. I don't even think there's anybody there. And I go chasing after them. I go running down the stairs. I was a technician at the time, so I grabbed a pry bar I had from my tool bag. I run downstairs, down to the basement, and I look around like who the hell was that? And the property owner that had put the camera down in the basement, without calling me, he calls the police, and he says, hey, I saw this Ben guy running down in the basement. He doesn't look like himself. I want to do a wellness check on him.
Wow.
And so the police show up, and they did. They showed up, extremely aggressive. And I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I heard somebody down in the basement. I ran down there. There wasn't anybody there. I walked back up. And they're like, well, he said you didn't look like yourself. And I was like, I don't even think I've seen this guy one time. I only talked to him on the phone. Like, I don't even know what that means. And they go, all right, well, we're going to get you checked out by a mental health professional and see if you need to be sectioned.
Based on that?
Yep. And I'm just cool as a cucumber. I mean, I'm freaked out, and these cops are so crazy. Like one of the dudes, he was like really like ornery, like just like his face is all red. He keeps like leaning towards me, like, are we gonna have a problem? We're gonna have a problem. And I'm all calm. I'm like, no, that's fine. And the other guy's bug-eyed. The other cop was all bug-eyed, looking around, keeps looking at my pockets over and over again. And I'm like, all right, well, yeah, let's get a mental health professional here. I'm fine. I'm 30. I've never had a mental problem. Yeah, that's fine. And so we wait there, and they're just standing there. And I go, can I change my clothes? I'm covered in filth and working. And the cop tries to he gets in like a football tackle stance, and leans towards me and he goes, yeah, Just, don't try anything. And I'm like, what is going on? What is going on? And so they have ambulance shows up. About six other cop cars show up. And the ambulance worker, the EMT comes in, looks at me and goes, how are you feeling? I'm like, I'm feeling all right. They don't ask me any questions. They didn't do any evaluation. They go, all right, come on, get on the gurney. And I go, what? What are you talking about? He goes, get on the gurney. You got to go to the hospital to get checked out. I go, I'm going to a hospital? I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't do anything. I ran down to a basement and then I walked back up. How is that grounds to hospitalize me? And they go, well, we're gonna have you checked out there, but it might take them till overnight for them to actually get somebody to take a look at you. So you might have to stay there overnight. And I'm like, I got work in the morning. I was like, I'm not going to the hospital. What are you talking? Well, I didn't say I'm not going to the hospital. I just said like, yes, sir. Because and they got me on a gurney. They wheeled me out in front of everybody in the neighborhood. They brought me there. They brought me 3 hospitals over. They brought me all the way to Cambridge from Waltham. So I get there, and the intake nurse is like, "Why did they bring you here? Like there's 2 other hospitals on the way here. I don't know why they brought you here in particular." And I'm like, "I don't know either. I've never had any of this happen to me before."
Did they inject you with anything?
No, that was the next time they did.
Thorazine or something?
The next time they did. They did that. So the second time, they did the same thing. So at that hospital, my wife showed up. I had to answer some basic questions. The nurse, thank God, the intake nurse noticed that something was wrong. The cop changed on the police report that I had hit myself on camera with my pry bar.
Wow.
So my wife
Sorry, you're freezing now.
watched the.
You just froze, Ben. I don't know if you can hear me. Ben, I don't know if you can hear me, but you froze. Okay, there we are. You're back. You froze there for a moment.
Yep.
Okay, so the intake nurse,
So basically, the intake nurse went and basically, she saw it right away because the EMT comes in and goes, the police officer just changed the police report and said that you hit yourself with your pry bar on camera. And I was like, what? I was like, no, I didn't. And my wife later went down there to the property manager's office and watched the video, and she's like, no, you didn't hit yourself. I saw it myself. You didn't hit yourself. And I go, all right. And so they tried doing that, and the intake nurse went and told several people there, like, get this guy out of here. Some cop is trying to railroad him. This is bullshit. And thankfully, thankfully they did. After like 3 or 4 hours of watching me and talking to me, they let me go. And
okay,
like,
so
yeah, fine.
Wow, unbelievable that this can happen. But very quickly, it happened again the second time, and then they drugged you?
Yeah. So the second time, they called a noise complaint on me, and this was, we had moved now to Stoughton, an apartment in Stoughton. This was a place that had like the
cheap
weird
rent,
bed.
free internet, cheap rent, free internet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Set up by your Thai community friends.
Yeah. Again, it was another Thai friend that was like, there's an apartment here ready, and we move in, and I noticed right away, I'm like, what do they have military working here for the maintenance people? And they did. They had an Air Force retired officer was the head of maintenance, and then there was another guy that looked like Gomer Pyle or something that was his underling, and it was bizarre. And there they called a noise complaint on me. The police showed up to the screen door, and I'm there by myself. And, I open up the glass. And I look through
Sorry to interrupt, Ben, but you've moved like way over to the other side of the camera. There we go.
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, so noise complaint. Go ahead.
So he comes up to the screen door. It's like a sliding door. And he's like, yeah, we got a noise complaint. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry about that. I must have got, too loud or something. I won't make any more noise. And he goes, all right, well, let me in. And I was like, no, I'm good, man. It's just me. I don't know if somebody called a noise complaint. I didn't have any music going or anything. It's just me. I'm here. There's not a party or anything. And he goes, I said, let me in. And he pushes the screen door open. He comes into my apartment, and he grabs me by the wrist and spins me around and shoves me into the wall.
Wow.
And he's pissed. Like, he was pissed, and he was like growling into my ear, like, when I say let me in, let me in. And I'm like, What is this? And he handcuffs me um, for a noise complaint. Handcuffs me, drags me out onto the lawn. They sit me down in like this little like lawn chair, again in front of the neighbors. I'm in my boxers, and and they just like the other cop has this like funny look on his face, like he's kind of smiling. He's like, "So what's going on with you? What's happening with you?" And I'm like, "I don't know. It was a noise complaint." I was like, "Why am I in handcuffs right now? I didn't do anything." And he goes, "Oh yeah, okay. Well, how you been feeling? Are you hearing voices? Anything going on with you?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "I'm not hearing voices." And I was, but I wasn't going to tell anybody because I knew what B2K,
Right.
what it sounds like
Sorry,
at the
just to
time.
just because we have a time constraint here. So they admitted you to a mental ward again. Did they inject you with drugs this time?
Yeah, they brought me to Brockton Hospital. They dragged me in there. The cops talked to the nurses there for a little while. I'm sitting, being as calm as I possibly can. Didn't say anything. All I did was ask for a glass of water once, and they come over and they go, "All right, we're gonna sedate you." And I said, "What?" I said, "What are you talking about? Like, I'm being sectioned and I'm like, what are you sedating me for?" And they just go resisting.
Sorry,
And,
you froze again. Sorry, Ben. Hang on. We got to wait for it to come back. You froze again.
oh, they,
There you go. You're back. Okay. So
yeah,
they're going to sedate you.
yeah. And so they say like, "Are you resisting?" And I go, "I'm not resisting. It's just I'm not doing anything. I'm literally laying here. Like, why would you sedate me?" And and they said, "Well, are you going to resist?" And I said, "I'm not resisting." And they just ignored me. And each nurse put like a flat hand on like each one of my limbs, like they were holding me down, but not really. Like it was like a legal liability thing.
Hmm.
And then they just injected me. They injected me with something, and I was knocked out for like 10 or 12 hours.
Good Lord.
I woke up. I was not. There was no evaluation. There's nobody came and talked to me. I woke up, they gave me some food. I'm like, "Can I talk to anybody? Can I talk to anybody?" They're like, "Oh, I don't know, I don't know." And I'm sitting in like the hallway of like this, like, it was just like an emergency room type place. I don't know if it was outside the psych ward. I pass out again from the drugs, from the injection they gave me, whatever it was like powerful. And I wake up and there's EMTs there and they go, "We're taking you to Dartmouth. We're taking you to Dartmouth." And I'm like, "Dartmouth? I thought I was getting released. What am I being held for? I didn't even talk to anybody." And they brought me to Dartmouth, South Coast Behavioral Psych Ward. And, it was like an hour away. Again, didn't get to talk to anybody. They took my insurance information. They brought me into a psych ward and they gave me a room with like this like crazy dude who was like out of his mind.
Wow. How long were you there for? How long were you at Dartmouth?
2 weeks.
Oh,
I was there
Lord.
for 2 weeks.
And you weren't allowed to speak to anybody.
I didn't talk to any mental health professionals up until I was there for 2 or 3 days. I think the third day, and they have a doctor come in, and he reads the police report, and he's like, "Yeah, it says here, you were running around making a lot of noise, and they had asked my wife, I guess, when she came home, if I had any weapons, and she said, 'Oh, he has like a machete that he juggles,' because at that point, I would sit there and I had like I juggle, so I would juggle this machete, but they made it sound like I was running around the house in the police report with a machete,
Wow.
and that I was screaming and stuff.
Do you have all the
And
documentation, like admission forms and all of that? Do you have this all documented?
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, is there,
yeah,
if you were to take, I mean, obviously your civil liberties were, I mean, abused and violated countless times by the
yeah.
police, by the hospital administration, all of these people. I mean, this is
Oh, they cover the tracks well. I mean, when at South Coast, at Dartmouth there, I just asked the guy, like, "How can I get out of here? I've been here for 3 days already. I've been here for 3 days and I didn't even get to talk to anybody. I'm locked up with a bunch of lunatics. I've never had a mental health problem in my life. How do I get out of here?" And he goes, "Well, if you sign off that you're here voluntarily, then you got a much better chance of getting out of here soon." And I'm like, "Are you serious? Like, I'm not here voluntarily. I'm locked up. There's like violent, crazy people around me. I don't want to be here." And he goes, "Well, if you sign voluntarily and you take the medication we tell you to take, then you got a much better chance of getting out of here." And so I was terrified. I was terrified. My wife is alone now at this point. where I knew that something was going on, where something was changing with her, where she was becoming mentally compromised.
What about your employer? Did your employer cooperate? I mean, were you welcomed back to your job, or what happened after
Oh
that?
no, lost my job. Lost my job. Like right before that. Before that, I had actually lost my job because I'd called out. I'd called out so many times from being like terrorized, like literally being like kept up all night by V2K. They don't just like use the V2K to, freak you out and literally somebody yelling into your head, which is like good luck going to sleep with somebody just like yelling into your head, calling you an asshole or whatever. And but they can use basically like they use extremely low frequency radio waves or EMF. And it causes what's it called? It's called neuromodulation. So basically, it interacts with your own brain signals, and it can put you into different like moods. It can put you in different moods. This is how they do you see a lot of target individuals talking about directed energy weapons and the pain that they have. They're doing is interacting with the central nervous system, and then that sends just signals to your brain that you're in pain. So like when people are like, my feet are burning and my head hurts, and I mean, they did all sorts of stuff with me. I mean, they could raise my blood pressure at a moment's notice. It felt like my veins are going to pop out of my head.
So if you were to, I don't know, build some sort of a Faraday cage in your apartment, that used to be the remedy, right? But now the technology is such, I mean, would that even help at this point?
Well, the reading I did said that extremely low frequency goes through those types of Faraday cages. Like you need to build like a really serious one. And one of the things that they did throughout all of this was, financially cripple me. They made, I lost my car. They've caused a glitch in the RMV now, where my license was suspended, and now I cannot unsuspend it. So now I have to hire a lawyer. And basically, get them to fix a clerical error, which is very convenient. So that was another thing. So they basically have complete control over your phone. So I was on Indeed and places looking for jobs. I applied for like 220 jobs in like a 4-month period, just all day long, applying. Good resume. I'm a good interviewer, and I would not get any response. I would not get any responses anywhere. And they kept me from getting a job for like 8 months, and basically kept us financially crippled. So like as I figured out, like, oh, we need to move out of here. Like I think that these places have something to do with it. It's like, nope, you don't have the money, or even like maybe just get away from here for the day. Like, nope, you don't have a car. Wow. And then obviously the shielding, or like you see like. I mean, jammers are illegal. You cannot use jammers. The FCC, will come after you. They can send you to jail for using jammers, and the type of jammers you need for extremely low frequency. I mean, that's like military grade jammers that cost like tens of thousands of dollars.
I've heard oscillating fans. I heard oscillating fans. If you have two of them going, like maybe say at the head of the bed or something like that, can also help.
Yeah, I saw that the Onion Head guy, putting lining copper on oscillating fans and creating scalar waves and stuff like that. And this is another problem now, because I'm trying to stay around my wife as much as possible to protect her, because she's mentally compromised now. Like she's not all there now. They use her like a prison guard. I mean, it's like if I do anything that has to do with If I went to make like a scalar wave generator out of an oscillating fan, or set up a silent night with a little EMP thing on it, or a Faraday cage, she would freak out. She would freak out and call the police. So they're using her as a way to basically like keep me from doing anything like that.
Ben,
if she sees me typing about this stuff, like she'll come from across the room. I could be typing something out to somebody on Facebook, like helping out a TI. She'll come from across the room out of nowhere and go, "Are you talking about the government again?" Like it's like something out of the Twilight Zone.
Where's your family? Do you have parents, brothers, sisters?
Yeah, I have family that I reconnected with when all this started happening. But I mean, they all seem to have their own kind of weird problems going on, which I don't know how much is connected with this. Because that's another thing I figured out is that a lot of these TIs, they seem to say they seem to all show the same pattern that their families are kind of targeted in ways, or their families are completely unhelpful. And I don't know if that's why they're targeted in the first place, but there's something to that because it seems this is part of a decades-long project of I think human experimentation, human trafficking, um, you know. I mean, mind control. I mean, you're talking about like the most important government conspiracy there is,
Well,
you know?
just in. We don't have a lot of time left, but I mean, I must say, I've interviewed, as I say, so many targeted individuals over the years, and I can't think of anyone who has. I mean, there's been some very credible people that I've interviewed, but I would have to say I would put you at the top of the list in terms of being level-headed and rational and credible. And I guess the who's ever behind this would say, well, he presents very well, but I don't think I believe what you're saying. You mentioned trafficking, and I know you believe there is some sort of a connection with it was not an organization, a cult, I guess. It was some people believe it was a satanic cult. The founders,
Yeah.
Marion Petty, I think his name was, started this. They had some property in Virginia, like the farm, where it was suspected that they were, I don't know, grooming children, abusing children, maybe trafficking children. Supposedly the CIA investigated or were told or asked to investigate, but they shut it down for internal reasons, whatever that means, as if maybe.
Yeah, well, they found
maybe,
they found a van full of kids and two of the founders members, and they just let them go.
yeah. So what does
Yeah.
the founders have to do with all this?
So, this is where it gets really bad. Where I'm at right now. So, the whole time they were saying that they kept mentioning things about like impregnating my wife and saying things like that.
Sorry, I
Now,
said the
obviously, this
founders.
whole,
I apologize for the interruption. I said the founders.
the
It's the
finders,
finders.
yeah,
The
yeah,
finders.
the finders, yeah. So they were obviously there was just constant talk about how they were using this technology to traffic people, including my wife, and that they had no idea, and that these people were out of it. They could basically put them into trances or identity alters, like which is like Project Monarch type stuff, where they do use. This is where the finders people come in. They use satanic ritual abuse basically to shatter people's personalities, and then they reprogram what, because the way the brain deals with it, it kind of creates like these abscesses of memory, like that kind of to
Compartmentalizes.
protect
It
itself. Yeah.
compartmentalizes.
And
Multiple
then
person. We used to call that multiple personality disorder, but
right.
it's dissociative disorder, right?
Identity, yeah, dissociative identity disorder. And so yeah, that's the big link, is that you have a government that needs programmed sex slaves, they need programmed assassins, they need Manchurian candidates, and they need I mean what Robert Duncan called them and Project Soul Catchers, rough boys. They need people that go in there and actually do this stuff to people and shatter their mind so that they can be reprogrammed. And that is where you start to see groups like the Finders, and there's a whole host of them that nobody knows about. And that is what's happening to me and my wife now, is what I'm convinced of. Because, I mean, obviously, when I was under attack with all this stuff, me and the wife we were not getting intimate that often. I was horrified and being brutally psychologically tortured. And I realized, I woke up a couple of times and they were making us copulate in my sleep. I was waking up like mid sex act with my wife, and I'm like, what? And that happened a couple of times, and quite honestly, like that fell to the back of the radar with everything that was going on, and I didn't really think about it that much. I thought like I'm under a lot of stress. I don't know, maybe I've always kind of sleptwalked a little bit, but that's an important thing, because now. Uh, so there was a separation between me and my wife, where they basically made her go nuts, and and she asked me to leave. So I moved out for a couple of months, and the whole time I'm terrified about what's happening with her. And all of a sudden she calls me to lunch and she's like, "I'm pregnant." And I go, "What? You're pregnant?" And she goes, "Yeah." And I'm like, "How long?" She goes, I'm like 3.5 months pregnant." I'm like, "What, from when I lived there?" So and I'm thinking back, I'm like, we didn't even get together at that point. I wasn't even we weren't having relations at this point. And yeah, so they basically made me impregnate my wife in my sleep. And now she is 7 months pregnant, very pregnant, and bizarre, just acts bizarre and is not all there. Um, and I'm pretty sure that this is kind of part of a pattern of how they target families and can kind of get people. I mean, because I've basically now, like, I mean, I went from at 38 having no police record, no mental health problem, nothing on my record, to now it's like I've got like the system's like loaded gun to my head basically, where like
Right.
it's like, yeah, you've been in a lot of trouble here, you've mental health problems, so like they could just like pull whatever crap they want, and all of a sudden I'm out of the picture, or they can just make my like that, like just like go nuts,
What,
and
so
and kick me out. And now
so
now there's a defenseless kid, you know.
what are you going to do, Ben? What's your next move?
I mean, honestly, like that is all I think about. I mean, first and foremost, I try to stay, as healthy as possible, and I'm, just trying to do everything that I can to just, just kind of deal with things, just normalize, just not let it get to me too much, which is like an insane task in itself. But then the only thing I can think of is just to get the word out, which is dangerous here in Massachusetts. If I mean if the right person got a hold of this, they could go and try to call a section on me and say like, oh look, this guy's nuts, lock him up, and they could be successful. So it's actually like extremely dangerous for me to even get the word out talking about any of this stuff. Even saying even now, and I want to go on record again saying I do not hear any V2K now. I am not hearing any voices, and I'm not a threat to myself or others, and I would never ever hurt myself or anything like that, because they use that system to sidestep any legal rights here, and can immediately discredit you and lock you up and get you out of the picture.
I was on the phone. I was listening. I hope you didn't think I was being rude. I was looking. I mentioned a television project I was involved with, and I was trying to remember the gentleman who I worked with, who was also on the project. And I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. John Hall.
No, I don't think
No,
so.
he's written about this. He was a pain management physician. I believe he's in Texas. It's been a number of years since I've spoken with him, but he's written extensively about this. He works with targeted individuals, and if I can find contact information, I'd like to get you in touch with him.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to network with as many people as possible. Like I've contacted Targeted Justice and a couple different organizations, but it's like just the nature of this, because this is really they make everybody go insane.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's absolute
they make
torture.
these target individuals lose their mind. They
Well,
lose their mind.
you
And
must
like
be.
I got
You,
through some of like the worst parts of it, and now like just my background, I kind of understand what's going on, and I'm a very strong. I have a very strong mind, so like I was able to, withstand a lot of this stuff and not crack like a lot of these people. But, I tried talking to some of these TIs, and they're out of their mind now. They're
yeah,
out of their mind. They're like, oh, they're sprinkling black things in my cereal and it controls my mind. Like they have no idea what's happening anymore. And that's the nature of this. They want to discredit and destroy anybody that they're working on. Whether it's for trafficking reasons, experimentation, or just I think that there's just a whole network of these remote neuromonitoring and control I'd say contractors, they just get off on torturing people.
Is this
So
just
they're
is this an experiment? Why you? I always ask this question. Why you?
I don't I can't say for sure. I mean, I was really outspoken, and I was an accurate conspiracy theorist. I would read stuff, and I didn't believe that, like, Elvis was hanging out with Bigfoot and all these other, zany things that people would believe in. I usually saw kind of the core of stuff, and and I'd write about the CIA's links with organized crime, and I'd write about Mossad, and I'd write about COVID, and the actual stuff that happened with COVID, not like that there's no viruses don't exist and all this crazy stuff. And I don't know. I think I might have got some attention there because I had some strange people show up online in my Discord. This one guy showed up, and he said he's from Virginia, and he was kind of laughing about it. Very strange. And he invited me to another conspiracy Discord that he had to post stuff there. So I don't know if that started there or before that.
I mean, I've been talking about all of these things publicly, like on the radio, not just on podcasts, on radio, big radio stations, coast to coast AM. I mean, not coast for 25 years, but I've been talking about these things for a quarter century. I mean, they didn't, as far as I know, I'm not mind controlled. I'm not targeted.
Well, they also they go out. They go by socioeconomics. So I did not have a lot of money. I was me and my wife were pretty, we're basically just above the poverty level. For years, all I did was I worked in the like the cannabis industry, and then I got out of that, and then I started becoming an actual person. So I think I was like, the same thing they did with a lot of people when they targeted people for MK Ultra. They found people that were low socioeconomic status, or people that wouldn't be listened to or didn't have the monetary means to escape a situation once they were in it.
Ben, are you a religious person? Are you a religious person?
I am now. Yeah, I am now. And they they are very when I was getting V2K, and hearing that stuff, they were very outspoken against Christianity and outspoken against Jesus. And like I was praying, like, because when you see that stuff happen to your wife, and just going through brutal psychological torture for months on end, it didn't stop. Even when I slept, I would hear them screaming in my dreams. I'd hear the same voices screaming. They can, just keep you doing V2K when you're sleeping.
Do you think there is a demonic or a satanic element to this?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think there's a big link to occultism, Freemasons, Satanists. That's a big element of this is a satanic ritual abuse angle. That they use to induce dissociative identity disorder so that they can traffic people and make assassins and stuff like that. Yeah.
And I don't know if you have I don't know what your particular faith tradition is. I don't know if like I'm Greek Orthodox. I don't know what it is. I mean, do you have a spiritual father, as we call them in the Orthodox faith, someone that you can?
No, I mean, I started going back to my Baptist church a couple times. I mean, I tried to go to one around here, and it was bizarre. I mean, I swear to God, it was like they were all mind controlled. They were weird, really weird. And then I went back to my hometown in Abington, and I went there a couple times. But to be honest, it's like I'm just running around, just trying to keep up with everything that's going on, and I don't go to church as much as I should. And they'll make me, like, I'm not hearing any voices or anything, but like they will make me feel extreme states of anxiety. They'll make me sweat like crazy. They can, let's just say they can cause any physiological function you think of. So, they can make you run to the bathroom every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
All that stuff. And they do that a lot when I would go to church. They can make you smell things. They'd make me smell sex smells and stuff when I'm in church, and be saying horrible things about my wife, while I'm sitting there trying to pray in church. They did not like that.
Ben, I'm so sorry for what you're going through. I can't imagine the hell that you're going through. But I will add you to my prayer list, and I will try to put you in touch with Dr. John Hall, and hopefully he can offer some advice I always feel totally useless in these situations. But all I can help maybe do is a little networking for you. And
Yeah, that's all I'm looking for. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. All right. Well, may God bless you, and
You too.
it's great to meet you. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to put out there? I don't know, website, email, anything. I know you're trying to,
Yeah, I mean, you can
support.
just if anybody wants to hit me up if you're a TI or anything, you can hit me up my email benjamincanine@gmail.com. Yeah, feel free. I'm just trying to, because one of the big things they do is just isolate us as much as possible. So I'm just trying to at least talk to some people because that helps anyway. Get the
All
word
right.
out.
I will include your email in the episode description, and people can reach out, and hopefully you'll be in touch with some good people who can help you. Again, Ben, thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
A new Richard Syrett's Strange Planet drops every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.